Hi, I'm Dorian Benquet with Teaming Media. Here on behalf of the IAB, we're at the IAB Networks and Exchanges Conference with Jay Sears of CONTEXTWEB. He's the General Manager, Exchanges. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell me a bit about what you and you guys do.
Yeah, sure. So CONTEXTWEB, we're an integrated digital solutions company. We maintain relationships with 11,000 publishers. We make that inventory available through a programmatic trading layer, also known as real-time bidding. And we make that inventory available both to our own house bidder, a full-service solutions team that sells directly to market agencies and advertisers, and also on an even footing to other ad networks, demand-side platforms, and agency trading desks.
So you've got context in your name.
Correct.
Is contextual advertising the thing that you most focus on?
Context is the biggest part of our heritage. We have a proprietary technology that we were actually just granted a patent on about 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That can determine in real time, in about 20 milliseconds, what is the content of a page. And of course, that's one of many, many attributes that you need to do an effective job for the end advertiser. But context is just one of many attributes. So when I talked about that programmatic layer that we make available through those 11,000 publishers, there are actually 31 pieces of data that we make available, and the contextual piece that we're so good at, that we have this proprietary technology, is one of them. And when we talk to people about data, we encourage them to think of data really in 3 ways. First-party data, so what that buyer or intermediary is bringing on behalf of the advertiser's own data. Third-party data, the data they may bring from a third-party source to layer on top of media they're buying, and then also data from the supply source. So as a supply source that makes this programmatic trading layer available for inventory on an impression by impression basis, what data do I make available on the bid call, on the call out to all of our buyers that they can use to place the best ad at the best time for the best price?
So what kind of data are you talking about? Behavioral data, demographic data, geographic data?
It really could be all of the above. You have data both on users, you have data on the web page, you have data on the publisher, and you have data on the actual ad slot. So what's the ad slot capable of? So contextual would be one. Another one would be, is the ad slot capable of showing an expandable ad, geographic location of user, things like that.
Okay. Moving away from context web a bit.
Yep.
We were talking about what's different now than it was a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And you were telling me some interesting observations, not just from the conference, but what you see in the industry in general. So tell me a little bit about that. I thought you made a couple of good points.
Yeah, so the industry is really quite good at talking about itself.
Yeah.
And what's happening is the evolution towards talking about customers too. And I see this across many companies, including our own, that the industry collectively is getting better about a customer focus and talking about customer benefits versus the plumbing. We still get caught up in our acronym soup, and I think we're moving beyond it. I think one...
But my car is so beautiful. Can't I tell you about the carburetor and the door handles?
Exactly.
I just want a car that gets me from point A to point B efficiently.
That's exactly right, yeah. And it's all about simplification. So we talked a lot about this morning about seemingly the industry's obsession around complexity.
But there is so much complexity.
There is a lot of complexity, and I think it's on each of us to simplify that, and to simplify that, especially as we talk to our customers. And one of the things that the IAB Ad Networks and Ad Exchanges group has done is come around with these quality assurance guidelines, and it's to take the complexity and the confusion out of what is admittedly a very complex digital supply chain, and give some very simple signals, so this certification program, of quality and of transparency. So for us, it's really about this quality assurance guidelines is, let's create a good housekeeping seal of approval for part of the digital advertising segment, so that you as a buyer can come in and say, okay, I have a choice of transacting with 100 different places. where are the places that have this good housekeeping seal of approval, this quality assurance guideline, and that denotes some quality and transparency.
And just to be clear, this is something the IAB has created.
Correct.
It's a quality assurance guideline. There are 17 or 18 companies that have entered it.
That have certified, right.
And if somebody in the industry sees that it's been certified, they at least, from a self-regulatory standpoint, not a third-party standpoint, but at least in terms of the group itself, they say that we agree that the people in our group are holding to these standards, and we will hold each other to these standards, so
Correct.
that you, the media buyer, can be assured that you're getting what you're being promised at the very least.
Yes, so that's exactly right. So there was a process of actually a couple years creating the foundation and framework for these quality assurance guidelines. Just about 6 weeks ago, the first of 18 companies said, okay, we're certified, which involved internal audit, self-regulatory audit, and attestation that they have done certain things operationally. So there's a bit of a commitment from these companies to go and put certain things in order to qualify for this certification. It includes a lot of the big ad networks or exchanges, so Microsoft, Google, Yahoo, Ad.com, ValueClick, and many others are part of this 24/7.
But it's internal.
It is self-regulatory, and then the officers of these companies will certify to the IAB, and then there's a grievance process. So buyers, if they believe that you've said that you're certified and that you've represented something and then haven't held up to it in the marketplace, that buyer can actually go to the IAB, and there's a grievance process, and basically it's a 3 strikes you're out process where we'll look at and process those complaints.
And what if I'm not one of the 18, but I still want to be a player in the marketplace?
Well, we said very clearly there are 18 that have certified. There are 14 more that are working on it that should be certified. We hope other networks and exchanges will join us, but we said really clearly this morning, we want everybody to be a good guy. But if you're not, and you're not going to certify, we will come after you.
Which means, what does that mean?
Which means the IAB and this collection of 32 companies is going out into the market talking about the importance of the quality assurance guidelines and this good housekeeping seal of approval, and telling buyers to look for this. And if the buyers don't see it, they need to ask some hard questions about who they're doing business with.
Okay. Do you think the industry is going to get ahead of this and be able to convince people that, okay, we are actually doing self-regulation in a way that's meaningful? Because yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that it has to. I really don't think there's another choice. I think the whole theme of this conference was how to stop digital on digital crime. The whole idea there being, a lot of times people in this business are beating each other up for the scraps, right? For the budget scraps that are on the table. And if we simplify what we're doing, right, and raise up the level of conversation with customers, what does that mean? That means that dollars can shift from other mediums into digital, and that helps everybody.
That's a provocative point. We've got a couple minutes left. I want to get back to contextual a bit.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of conferences, and I hear a lot of talk these days about all kinds of targeting, behavioral, demographic, psychographic, all kinds of mixes. I don't hear very much about contextual anymore.
Yeah.
What's going on? Why, you obviously believe in the value of contextual advertising,
Sure.
Why don't we think that contextual?
Well, yeah, I think we went through a couple phases. I think very early on you heard a lot about contextual, and then you heard about behavioral and retargeting, and then you heard about audience targeting, right?
Meaning demographic or psychographic.
Demographic, psychographic. It became another word for different types of behavioral targeting. And I think it's not either or these days. It's, what's the layered approach, right? Because only in a layered approach that involves multiple types of targeting can you deliver scale for an advertiser. So again, if you think back to kind of a Wall Street approach, it's really a portfolio basis, and it's governed in terms of what's the goal of the portfolio, right? Is it conversions? Is it brand? Is it upper funnel? Is it lower funnel? And and then what type of scale do you want to bring to the party, right? Because if you only want a little scale, quite frankly, you don't need to do any display. You can just go buy some search terms and you'll be done, right? If you want a little bit more, maybe you do some retargeting. If you want a little bit more, maybe you do some lookalike targeting. And then if you want true scale, you've got to layer on a number of things, including contextual. And certainly if you want brand association and you want to reach consumers in a right frame of mind for your message, you need to consider the environment that you're presenting that message in.
What's the level of engagement that you want a user to have? Because if they're too engaged in the content, then it's the right context, but they might not absorb the message at all.
Yeah.
If they're not engaged at all, what's the right level?
I think that's that's a relative question. That's going to, again, depend on the goals of the advertiser. So if the advertiser is looking for a click, right, or a conversion, that's going to be different than if they want to achieve brand lift out of a campaign, right?
All right. Well, I thank you. That's great. It was good to speak with you.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.